Hello folks, welcome back to the Edupedia world, and I am Abhinay Gupta. So today again we'll continue with the topic, the meeting of the board and its powers. Right? So as usual, before starting the class, we'll give a quick revision of what we have covered in the previous lecture, and we'll move ahead with the provisions that we are supposed to discuss in the current lecture. Right? So in the immediately preceding lecture, we were discussing about section 178, the provisions of 178, right, which dealt with two committees actually, the nomination and remuneration committee and the stakeholder relationship committee, out of which we have covered already the nomination and remuneration committee. We have discussed the provisions and we have discussed it in detail. Now today what we'll be covering is the stakeholder relationship committee, right? So that is the topic of the day. So let us give a quick revision to the nomination and remuneration committee and then move on to the stakeholder relationship committee. So nomination and remuneration committee. First of all, what we need to understand is what are the companies in which we need a nomination and remuneration committee. Right? So what are the companies? Number one, all the listed companies. Number two, the prescribed companies. And when we talk about the prescribed companies, these are the same prescribed companies that are prescribed for the purpose of being qualified to hold independent directors and to form an audit committee. So remember the limits of 10, 150. So 10 was, we are discussing about the public company whose paid up share capital is greater than 10 crores. The public company whose turnover is greater than 100 crores and the public company whose borrowings are greater than 50 crores. So if you fall under this category, you will have to form a nomination and remuneration committee. Right, that is the first thing. Then we have what we had seen, that the committee would be formed by minimum of 3 directors, right? And out of those 3, majority should be independent directors. That means more than 50% of directors should be independent. Got it? And one more important, a different aspect that we had seen is that the chairman of the company can be a member of the nomination remuneration committee but cannot chair this committee. That means the chairman of the company cannot be the chairman of the nomination and remuneration committee. Right? Now, we have discussed the legal requirements of nomination and remuneration committee, but now why do we need a nomination and remuneration committee? What is the purpose? What do they do? Right? So basically they identify the people, the persons who are qualified to be your director and to be onto the position of a senior management. So it is their authority, their responsibility to identify those persons. By the name itself you understand it is nomination and remuneration committee. So you will talk about the nomination, you will be nominating people to the higher management of the company, and then you will also discuss about the remuneration. You will deal with the remuneration. Right? So when they identify those people, they will recommend to the board for their appointment, or they will also identify people who should be removed from the board and they will again recommend to the board. Right? And then they will also discuss the performance appraisal, right, of the entire board. Okay, then they would also formulate the criteria for defining and for understanding the qualifications and the independence. For independence, you know that you have to check the conditions given in section 149 subsection 6, right? I hope you remember these things, we have discussed it already. So when the NRC would formulate such a policy, they would recommend that policy to the board, and the board will disclose that policy in the board report that they are preparing, that yeah, this is the policy that it has been given by the nomination and remuneration committee. And while they are forming the policy for the remuneration, they will have to ensure that the remuneration that they have fixed are reasonable. That means they are not going very much beyond the limit, and they should also be sufficient. That means they should not even be below the limit. So there is a bracket between which you will have to set your remuneration. It should not be too much and it should not be too less. Right? It should not be too less or too much to attract, motivate or retain the employee and director. That means the purpose of your formulating a policy for remuneration, the remuneration that you decide should be adequate to attract, motivate and retain the employee. You should not be giving them too much, right, so that they stop working. Oh, I am already having it, I am already getting this paycheck at the end of the month, what is the point of working anymore? I have reached my limit. Right? That should not be the thing. And it should also be bifurcated into certain parameters so that it motivates people to work more. Right? and while they are formulating the remuneration, they should keep or give a valid consideration to the performance. So the remuneration should be directly proportional to the performance, right? And the remuneration that when they are setting it for the higher level management, they should higher level management means the directors, the KMP, the senior management, right? So they should lay great stress, right, on defining the parameters and drawing the line between the fixed and the incentive portion, the short and the long term portion, right? And that should be based on their short and long term performance objectives. Like, okay, this is the amount we would give you fixed, but this is the extra amount that you would get only if you perform well. Otherwise, you're losing this money. So that will motivate them to perform, right? We have discussed in detail, we won't get back to that. And the other point that we had discussed is who are the senior management when we talk about senior management, right? So they are basically the core management team of, they are the core management team members, right? But they are not the board of directors. So they are just right below the board of directors. In the hierarchy, they are just one level below the board of directors, right? And they are the functional heads. So that was all about the nomination and remuneration committee that we had discussed, right? So today we'll move ahead to our new topic, that is the shareholder relationship committee, right? So by the name shareholder relationship, what do you understand? What is the basic purpose for which this committee has been framed, and what is the limit? When do you need these committee? So here this is a little out of the box committee, right? So don't just mug up that whenever you get the committee you have that limit listed company and the prescribed companies. Over here the scenario is not the same, although it is covered under the same section with the nomination and remuneration committee, but the parameters are different. So your shareholders relationship committee will be established in only those companies, right, which would have their shareholders, debenture holders, deposit holders, security holders greater than 1000 in number, right? So SRC would be in the company with greater than 1000 shareholder, debenture holder, deposit holder and security holders. So that means we are basically talking about those companies that are operating on the large scale. Shareholders means the members are also above 1000. That means they are not talking about the private companies. We are only talking about the public companies, right? Most of them would also be listed, but listed company is not a parameter. What we have to check is more than 1000, right? Remember, it is not more than equal to 1000. So there can be a googly in the examination. You have 1000 shareholders. Do you need a remuneration do you need a stakeholder relationship committee? The answer is no, right? But if it is 1001, the answer is yes. Now, if you talk about the composition of the committee, then what the section defines is that you should have one chairman, and that chairman can be an executive or non-executive director, anybody, but you should have a chairman, and along with chairman you will have other members too. The numbers and who will be the members, these things are not provided for in section 178. It just says you will have to have one chairman and you can have other members as the company deems fit, right? It actually depends on the majority that the company has, the volume that the company has. 1100 shareholders are the minimum. They can go up to 10,000, any limit, right? So maybe for them they will need some more directors, so they will have number of directors with the chairman. Otherwise they will not have other members with the chairman, they will just have one or two, right? Now what do they basically do is they consider plus resolve the shareholders' grievances. So if the shareholder has any grievance, now they know whom to approach. They will approach to the stakeholder relationship committee. In the specific type of company that have so much of stakeholders, more than 1000, for them this specifically dedicated committee is required. Otherwise, when you have a nominal amount of people, you can manage them very well, so you don't require this dedicated committee. But over here the management becomes a pain, right? It becomes a really tedious and tough task. So for that the company decided that okay, if you go beyond the limit, you are allowed to prepare a stakeholder relationship committee to specifically consider and resolve the grievances of the shareholders or the stakeholders actually, right? So it is not just the shareholders, we are talking about the stakeholders. Now this is all. We know when we need to make it and what is the composition. Now what we know is that the chairman or any other authorized person of the nomination remuneration committee or the stakeholder relationship committee, right, whoever is the leading person, the chairman basically, he has the right to attend the meeting of the shareholders or the stakeholders. No. That means you will have to pay attention. We are not talking about stakeholder in this case. That means they are not attending the meeting of the debenture holders, deposit holders or security holders. They are just holding the general meeting. The chairperson or any other authorized person of the NRC or SRC are authorized to attend the meeting of the shareholders. That means they are authorized to attend the general meeting of the company. That is it. Right? Now that is all about the provisions that you have in section 178 for stakeholder relationship committee. It is not a very important committee, so you don't pay a very much of detailed attention on this. Okay? And it is not important from the exam point of view as well. So next what we need to see is if there is a situation when the grievance of any stakeholder is not considered. They have come up to the committee with a grievance. Okay, this is the problem with me, please help me out, and they don't consider it. What will be the consequence? First of all, you need to understand. We'll discuss about the consequence, we'll discuss about the penalty, but before that you need to understand what is the situation that gives rise to a consequence, right? And what are the situations that would help them escape the consequence? So basically, if they do not consider the grievance of any stakeholder in good faith, right, then it does not amount to contravention. But otherwise, if they do not do it as a discretion or they are just trying to be a little naughty, then they will face the consequences. And what are the penalties for the contravention? The company will have to bear a fine of rupees 1 lakh, which could range up to rupees 5 lakh, right? And the officers of that committee specifically, right, they would bear a liability, a fine of rupees 25,000, which would range up to rupees 1 lakh. And since now they are individuals, they are members, right, they would also be subjected to imprisonment of 1 year. The company can't be subject to imprisonment, so you just have fine, which is like 4 times or 5 times, right, the officer's fine. But that is just because they cannot be sent to jail, and the officers are also succumb to an imprisonment of 1 year. And nowadays you understand that if there is some problem like this, people would basically try to pay money and move out of it, because 25,000 or 1 lakh is not a very big deal, but imprisonment is a big deal, right? So now that is the catch. Now they will be scared if they contravene with the provisions. Now they will consider all the grievance, because they know if the stakeholder goes to the court, or if the stakeholder is able to prove that I am acting in contravention of section 178, then I may be put behind bars for 1 year, right? So they would work efficiently, they would consider the grievances, right? That is the purpose for which they have been prepared. So the next topic that we have after section 178 is section 179, which is actually about the power of the board, right? And it is a very lengthy topic, right? You have minute details you discuss, and that is a very interesting topic as well. So I would not want to pick that topic up in this class, break it in between and cover up the next in the coming lecture. So better than that, what we do is we'll pick up that topic in the next lecture, we'll complete it, then we'll also discuss the question answers, and then we'll move on to the next section that is also connected to 179, which is section 180. Over there also you have 4 powers, right? But for those powers you have restriction that you need to pass a special resolution. So it is both the section that are coming up, section 179 and 180, are important. You have very many questions in your examinations, and they are also very interesting, very interesting sections, right? So we'll pick them up fresh in the next lecture, right? So we'll conclude our lecture over here today. So until next class, stay tuned. This is Abhinay Gupta signing off. Thank you. Bye bye.